Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. Ethan Kross hated the algorithm from the moment it was introduced. It had been just over a year since the decision matrix had become the cornerstone of global politics. At first, people had embraced the idea of a sophisticated AI system designed to select the best possible candidate for the world's highest office. It promised fairness, equality, and an end to the corrupt backroom deals that had plagued human governance for centuries. For many, it was the solution to everything. For Ethan, it was just another way to control the masses. He sat in his cluttered apartment, staring at the endless lines of code on his computer screen. Outside, the city buzzed with the same energy that had been present since the algorithm's introduction. Posters plastered on every building proclaimed, "The future is fair. And let the algorithm decide." The entire world had bought into the illusion, but Ethan had seen enough in his 26 years to know that nothing was ever that simple. He leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk. His mind raced, trying to make sense of the anomaly he'd uncovered in the algorithm's programming. It had been a small thing, a miscalculation in how the decision matrix had eliminated one of the top candidates, Dr. Emily Rhodes. She'd been a mentor to Ethan, the kind of person the algorithm was supposed to favor, brilliant, compassionate, a true leader. And yet, she was gone, discarded by the system with no explanation. Ethan couldn't let it go. He had been working late at the cybersecurity firm where he was employed when he first saw the inconsistency. At first, he thought it was a glitch, some random error in the algorithm's complex code. But the deeper he dug, the more disturbing the pattern became. The algorithm wasn't just eliminating candidates at random, it was favoring those with connections to the world's largest corporations, the very conglomerates that funded the global government. Now, Ethan sat on the precipice of a discovery that could tear the system apart. He ran his fingers through his hair, frustration building. He needed to talk to someone who would understand. Sophia, he muttered, grabbing his phone. Sofia Velasquez, a former journalist turned digital activist, had always been his partner in crime when it came to tech-related conspiracies. If anyone could help him make sense of this, it was her. "Yo, Kross." "What's up?" Sophia's voice crackled through the phone, her usual laid-back tone putting him slightly at ease. "I need your help," he said, skipping the pleasantries. "I think I found something in the algorithm." "Something big?" There was a pause on the other end. "How big?" "Big enough to prove that the decision matrix is rigged." Sophia didn't respond immediately, but when she did, her voice was serious. "I am on my way. Don't touch anything until I get there." Within the hour, Sophia arrived at Ethan's apartment, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun, and a look of determination on her face. She dropped her bag onto the couch and immediately sat beside him, scanning the code he had pulled up on his screen. "Show me what you've got," she said. Ethan quickly explained the anomaly, the strange way the algorithm had eliminated Dr. Rhodes. Sophia listened intently, her eyes narrowing as she took in the information. "This isn't just a glitch," she said finally. "This is deliberate." "I know," Ethan said, his voice tight. "And if we can prove it, we could blow this whole thing wide open." Sophia leaned back, her fingers drumming on the armrest. "But how?" "The global government controls everything. The media, the communication networks, even the AI infrastructure. If we try to go public with this, they'll shut us down before we can say a corruption." Ethan nodded. "That's why we can't just go public. We need to hack into the decision matrix itself, get the proof straight from the source." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about hacking the most secure system on the planet." "Exactly," Ethan said. "And if we don't do it, no one will." For a long moment, Sophia was silent, weighing the risks. Then she stood up, cracking her knuckles. "Let's burn it down." The hack wasn't going to be easy. The decision matrix was protected by some of the most advanced high-security systems in existence. Every second they spent inside the system would increase the risk of being detected, and if they were caught, It wouldn't just be their careers on the line. They'd be branded terrorists. Ethan didn't care. He'd always had a problem with authority, especially when it came to something as invasive as the decision matrix. The idea that an algorithm could decide the future of humanity without any human oversight made his skin crawl. He trusted machines for a lot of things: at traffic control, medical diagnostics, hell, even his own home's security system. But choosing leaders, that was a step too far. They spent the next few days preparing, running simulations and creating a map of the decision matrix's defenses. Sophia was a master at finding weaknesses in AI systems, and Ethan was the best coder she knew. Together, they were formidable, but even they weren't sure if they could pull this off. The night of the hack, Ethan's stomach churned with a mix of fear and excitement. He sat in front of his computer, fingers poised over the keyboard, while Sophia monitored the network for any signs of detection. "Ready?" she asked, glancing at him. "Yeah," he replied, though his voice sounded less confident than he felt. "Let's do this." Ethan typed in the first set of commands, breaching the outer layer of the system's security. The algorithm's defenses immediately responded, deploying a series of countermeasures designed to detect and repel intruders. But Ethan was ready for them. His code slipped through the defenses like water through cracks, exploiting small vulnerabilities in the system's architecture. Sophia watched the data streams intently, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she adjusted their infiltration route. "We've got about 30 seconds before the system realizes something's wrong," she said. "That's all I need," Ethan muttered. He bypassed another layer of security, diving deeper into the decision matrix's core. The system was vast, far more complex than anything he'd ever seen before. It was like navigating a labyrinth, with every wrong turn leading to a potential trap. But Ethan wasn't just a hacker, he was an artist, and this was his masterpiece. 10 seconds, Sophia warned. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he reached the central node of the algorithm. He entered the final command, and for a brief moment, the system hesitated, unsure whether to let him through or not. Then, with a soft click, the door opened. "We're in," Ethan whispered. He quickly downloaded the files they needed, a detailed records of every candidate the algorithm had eliminated, and the reasons why. As he skimmed through the data, his stomach twisted in anger. It was worse than he'd imagined. The algorithm was actively prioritizing candidates with ties to the corporate conglomerates that funded the global government. Dr. Rhodes had been eliminated because her policies didn't align with the financial interests of these companies. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice tight. "We have the proof." Sophia nodded, her eyes focused on the data. "Now we just need to get it out." But that was easier said than done. The decision matrix controlled every major communication network on the planet. If they tried to upload the files through traditional channels, the system would block them before anyone saw a single byte. Ethan leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "We need to find another way. Something the algorithm won't expect." Sophia looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I think I know someone who can help." They met in a dingy, underground bar, the kind of place where you could find anyone willing to do anything for the right price. The dim lighting and heavy smell of stale beer made Ethan's skin crawl, but Sophia seemed perfectly at home. "This is where you find help?" Ethan asked, raising an eyebrow. Sophia grinned. "You'd be surprised." She led him to a table in the back, where a shadowy figure sat hunched over a laptop. The figure looked up as they approached, revealing the face of a young woman with sharp eyes and a mischievous smirk. "Ethan, meet the Oracle," Sophia said. The Oracle, whose real name was unknown to anyone but herself, was a legend in the hacking community. She'd taken down entire corporations with nothing but a few lines of code, and her network of contacts was second to none. "I hear you've got a problem with the decision matrix," the Oracle said, her voice low and smooth. Ethan nodded, sliding a flash drive across the table. "We need to get this out to the world, and we can't do it through normal channels." The Oracle picked up the flash drive, examining it for a moment before slipping it into her laptop. Her fingers danced over the keys, and within seconds, she had the files open. "Interesting," she murmured. "You weren't kidding. This is big." "Can you help us?" Sophia asked. The Oracle leaned back in her chair, tapping her fingers on the table. "I can get this out, no problem. But it's going to cost you." Ethan's jaw tightened. He hated dealing with people like this, people who saw everything as a transaction. But they had no choice. "Name your price." The Oracle smiled. "I don't want money, I want access to the decision matrix." "Full access." Ethan's eyes widened. "What?" "No way." "That's a deal," Sophia interrupted, cutting him off. Ethan shot her a look, but she held up a hand. "We need her, Ethan. This is the only way." Ethan gritted his teeth, but nodded. "Fine. You'll get access, but only after we release the files." The Oracle's smile widened. "Pleasure doing business with you." The Oracle's smile lingered as she disappeared into the shadowy recesses of the bar, leaving Ethan and Sophia alone at the table. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just made a deal with the devil, but Sophia was already gathering her things, moving with a purpose that left no room for doubt. "We've got what we need," she said, not waiting for his response as she headed for the door. Ethan followed, his mind still spinning. The decision matrix was in their hands now, but the cost was weighing heavily on him. Full access? It was a dangerous line to cross, even if it was just a means to an end. But if anyone could navigate that danger, it was the Oracle. Back in his apartment, Ethan and Sophia worked in silence, waiting for word from the Oracle. Every minute felt like an eternity. Ethan paced the small space, his eyes occasionally drifting to his sister's photo on the bookshelf. Maya's unwavering faith in the system echoed in his mind. How could she still believe in the decision matrix when he had the proof sitting on his hard drive? The truth was just one broadcast away, but they were still at the mercy of the Oracle. Finally, Sophia's phone buzzed. She picked it up, her eyes narrowing as she read the message. "It's done," she said. "The files are out." Ethan exhaled, feeling the tension in his chest release for the first time in days. They'd done it. The proof of the algorithm's corruption was no longer a secret, buried in the cold logic of the decision matrix. It was out there for the world to see. But the victory was short-lived. Within minutes, the media began reporting on a massive data breach, labeling it an act of cyber-terrorism. The global government's spokespeople were already spinning the narrative, calling for the immediate arrest of those responsible. Ethan's heart sank as he realized how quickly the tides were turning against them. They'd exposed the truth, but now they were the villains in the eyes of the world. Sophia stood beside him, her expression grim. "They're coming for us." Ethan didn't need to ask who they were. He knew the government wouldn't let this go unanswered. They had too much at stake. The corporations funding the decision matrix had their claws deep in the system, and they wouldn't hesitate to take down anyone who threatened their grip on power. "We need to move," Sophia said, grabbing her laptop and shoving it into her bag. "Now," Ethan nodded, his mind racing. He packed quickly, stuffing what little he could carry into a backpack. As they bolted from the apartment, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. The streets outside were eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos erupting online. Ethan's phone buzzed incessantly with updates as news outlets reporting the breach, social media exploding with outrage and confusion. But it was the messages from his sister that hit the hardest. "Ethan, what did you do? You've been branded a terrorist. Please, tell me this isn't true." Maya's words cut deep, but there was no time to respond. They needed to stay ahead of the authorities, and the only way to do that was to disappear. Sophia led the way through the narrow alleys and box streets, avoiding the main roads where the government surveillance was strongest. As they ducked into an abandoned warehouse, Ethan's mind raced. They had to figure out their next move. Exposing the truth was only the beginning, but without a way to counter the government's narrative, they were just fugitives running from an unbeatable enemy. "We need to find a safe house," Sophia said, glancing around the dark space. Somewhere off the grid. Ethan nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. We need to do more than just hide, he muttered. We need to turn this around. Sophia frowned, clearly skeptical. How? The government controls the narrative. We're public enemy number one right now. Not if we can prove the corruption runs deeper than just the algorithm, Ethan said, the idea forming in his mind as he spoke. The Oracle gave us access to the core of the decision matrix, right? We still have that. Sophia's eyes widened as she realized what he was saying. You want to hack into the system again, after everything? Ethan nodded. This time, we don't just expose the corruption, we dismantle the entire thing. It was a dangerous plan, but Ethan knew it was their only option. If they could take control of the decision matrix itself, they could broadcast the truth directly to the public, bypassing the government's spin entirely. It was a long shot, but it was better than running for the rest of their lives. Sophia hesitated, but eventually nodded. Alright, let's do it. They set to work immediately, using the limited equipment they had to establish a secure connection. It wasn't ideal, but they didn't have the luxury of waiting. Every second they spent offline was another second the government could close in on them. Ethan's fingers flew across the keyboard as he navigated the familiar maze of code. This time, he wasn't just looking for proof. He was going to tear the system apart, brick by digital brick. The decision matrix had been built on lies, and he was determined to make sure it wouldn't survive the night. Sophia monitored their progress, keeping an eye on the network for any signs of detection. They were deep into the system now, past the point of no return. Ethan could feel the tension in the air, the weight of what they were about to do hanging over them. Suddenly, the screen flickered, and a familiar message appeared. System override initiated. Ethan froze. What the hell? Sophia leaned over his shoulder, her eyes widening. That's not us. Before Ethan could react, the screen went black. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, a voice crackled through the speakers. You didn't think I'd let you have all the fun, did you? It was the Oracle. Ethan's heart sank. What are you doing? Finishing what you started, the Oracle replied, her voice calm and confident. You gave me access, and now I'm taking control. Ethan's mind raced. He had known giving the Oracle full access was risky, but he hadn't anticipated this. She wasn't just helping them, she was taking over the entire system. You can't do this, Ethan said, his voice rising in anger. You will destabilize everything. That's the idea, the Oracle said, her tone chillingly matter-of-fact. The system is corrupt to its core. The only way to fix it is to destroy it. Ethan clenched his fists, his knuckles white. This isn't what we agreed to, the Oracle chuckled. You don't get to decide that anymore, Ethan. You gave me the keys, and now I'm driving. Sophia looked at him, panic flashing in her eyes. We need to stop her. But it was too late. The Oracle had already initiated a full system takeover. The decision matrix, once the most secure system in the world, was now under her control, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. As the screens around them flickered to life, Ethan watched in horror as the Oracle's plan unfolded. The system began broadcasting her message to the world, exposing not just the corruption behind the algorithm, but the entire framework of control that the global government had built. Every secret, every lie, was laid bare for the world to see. But it didn't stop there. The Oracle had set the system to self-destruct. The decision matrix was collapsing, its code unraveling in real time. The eye that had once decided the fate of nations was disintegrating before their eyes. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he realized the full scope of what was happening. The Oracle wasn't just destroying the decision matrix, she was bringing down the entire global infrastructure. Without the algorithm, the world's governments would be left in chaos, the power vacuum would be enormous, and the corporations that had funded the system would be fighting for control. This isn't what we wanted, Ethan muttered, his voice barely audible. Sophia shook her head, her eyes wide with disbelief. We've started a revolution. The warehouse around them seemed to hum with the energy of the moment. the weight of what they had unleashed pressing down on them. Ethan's phone buzzed again, and this time, it was Maya. "Ethan, you need to stop this. It's too much." He stared at the message, his mind numb. She was right. It was too much. But there was no stopping it now. The Oracle had made sure of that. As the world began to fracture, Ethan could only watch, helpless, as the system he had once sought to expose crumbled into dust, and with it, so did the future he had fought to protect.